Getting started in Panorama. Panorama is a Canadian-grown public health solution. The development of Panorama was driven by the findings and recommendations of the Naylor Report, commissioned after Canada's SARS outbreak in 2002-2003. IBM was awarded the project in 2006 under a procurement led by BC and Canada Health Infoway. Through consultation and development work with public health professionals and other stakeholders across BC, Panorama slowly began to take form. 2011 saw the launch of the inventory module, assisting staff in monitoring vaccine usage and wastage. In January of 2013, the Deputy Minister mandated a go-live of the Family Health and Immunization modules for that summer. Working within tight timelines, Interior Health was able to train over 400 public health staff, going live with the program in June of that year. A few years later, the outbreak module and communicable disease portion of the investigations module were officially deployed, followed by tuberculosis management in the spring of 2016. Workstation requirements. Firefox is the only supported browser to run Panorama. It can be accessed through the Start menu under All Programs and is labeled Panorama Viewer 3.0. It is important that you do not open multiple instances of Panorama. This can lead to errors in documentation and data potentially not getting saved. In addition to the Panorama Viewer 3.0, you will need Java, an Adobe Reader and/or Microsoft Excel in order to run and read Panorama-generated reports. Jurisdictional Organizations. The jurisdictional organization structure, also known as the JORG, represents a hierarchical view of the public health delivery system within Interior Health. As part of the enrollment process for Panorama, each user is assigned to a particular JORG. And in most cases, your JORG will match your service delivery location, also known as an SDL. Service delivery locations. A service delivery location, or SDL, is a physical location where services are provided. SDLs therefore typically have addresses and other contact details associated to them. Each SDL is associated with one and only one JORG. For example, Interior Health has 4 Health Service Delivery Areas, or HSDAs, the East Kootenays, Kootenay Boundary, Okanagan, and the Thompson Caribou Shuswap. Associated with each HSDA are JORG branches and SDL locations. For example, the Okanagan HSDA has under it the Enderby branch, which has the associated Enderby SDL attached to it. This is where a provider, like a nurse or a dental clinician, delivers a service to a client. Logging in. Providing you have an account provisioned in Panorama, once you log on to the Interior Health Network with your own mnemonic, you can then move to logging on to Panorama. Opening up the Panorama Viewer 3.0 will display a web page offering the 3 login options: BCEID, Provincial Health Services, or Yukon. Select the middle PHSA logo to access Panorama. This selection does not require you to enter a login or a password. After selecting the PHSA logo, you will then be brought to an additional login page where you can choose your role for the day. Select the organization or area you will be working in that day. Your role options will then show a drop-down list of roles assigned to you based on the organization you have selected. Be sure to select the correct role for the work you will be doing that day. For example, if you work in the Nurse-Family Partnership Program on Monday and Tuesdays, and then do general public health nursing work for the remainder of the week, be sure to select your BCY NFP All role on Monday and Tuesday, and your BCY FHSH Provider Clerk All role on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The language for the site will default to English. Clicking Continue will bring you into Panorama. The Panorama Dashboard. The current version of Panorama contains both classic and next-gen screens. The Immunizations module has been upgraded to the next-gen look, while the majority of screens in the remaining modules have retained the classic look. Your login details are shown at the top right-hand side of the screen and are associated to the JORG branch you selected on the previous screen. Your assigned service delivery locations are also shown on this screen. The role you log into and the SDL you will be working at for the day should correspond as per the IHA JORG structure. Your SDL can be changed by selecting from the drop-down list. It is important that a user chooses their correct SDL when logging into Panorama, as SDLs are associated with encounter records, used to indicate where a client encounter occurred, and for reporting purposes. If you need access to more areas, please have your supervisor notify the support mailbox at ppsystemsupport@interiorhealth.ca. Quick links are available to access the reports page. Personal workloads, document management, and notifications are not being used at this time. The external reference links will point a user who has the correct access to various outside links, including the Student Information Exchange or STIX program, the Branch Locator tool, and a First Nations community listing spreadsheet. The upper area or banner of NextGen Panorama screens remains the same on every screen as you navigate throughout the system. It will retain the classic look on classic screens. The Panorama Dashboard is accessible by clicking the Panorama logo in the top left corner of any screen. You do not lose context when you click this. For those modules that remain in classic view, the additional modules available to choose from, as determined by your user roles and permissions, will run along the top of the screen on the module bar. To go to the required module, click the name on the module bar. The module you are working in is highlighted in blue. The module a user is in is shown just under the Panorama logo for modules in the NextGen mode. Users must click the module name to generate a listing of available modules to navigate to. The majority of screens in Panorama will also have a Care Connect link that clinicians can use to access client lab reports. The NextGen banner. My Account. This button allows the user to access self-serve functions and make changes to user profile information, change one's role, or manage immunization defaults. To change between roles on classic screens, a hyperlink is available just before the logout button. In addition, users can change one's SDL, the location they are working in that day, on the main dashboard. User notifications, settings, and language are not in use at this time. And of course, the logout button at the end of the row. Manage User Profile has three main sections: personal information, organizational membership information, and default encounter group and service provider information. The personal information section displays the user ID, name, and default service delivery location that has been set for you. You can also set your preferred language from this section. The Organization Membership Information section allows your organization name. You can add or edit your phone numbers, email addresses, and SDLs here. The Default Encounter Group and Service Provider section can be used to select yourself as the default service provider from the specific encounter groups chosen. Immunization Defaults. The system allows users to set up immunization defaults, which will automatically enter site, lot number, and SDL as set by your default into an immunization entry. It is recommended to look at your defaults before entering immunization data to ensure that the defaults set up previously are still relevant. When you select the Immunization Defaults link from the My Account dropdown, you are presented with the Immunization User Defaults screen. It is on this screen that you can add your immunization defaults or sites. Once saved, users can delete their defaults if no longer applicable. The left-hand navigation, or LHN, is used to navigate within areas of Panorama to which you have access. Both Classic and NextGen screens look very similar. The main function headings are displayed in white text on a dark gray background, while subheadings and subsequent selections are displayed in a white text on a light gray background. Downward pointing arrows to the right of either the main or subheading indicates further selections are available below. Once either the main or subheadings are selected, the arrow will point upwards. To collapse the list, click on the arrow or either the main or subheadings themselves again. Next-gen screens contain an action bar that will remain at the top of most screens. The Save button is visible in the bar and should be clicked when any change is made on the screen. The Reset button clears any data entered on the screen since the last save, while the More button will be displayed if the user is on a screen that allows for adding a client to a wait queue. It also will launch applicable reports related to which module the user is on, among other things. The Log button will display an audit history showing which user created and modified the screen entries. When clicked, a log modal will appear showing the entire history of data entries and edits. On classic screens, this audit history is seen at the bottom of the screen. The Print and Help icons open up their respective screens. The Print icon can be used to print all of the information visible on the screen, similar to the Print Screen button on your computer keyboard. Use of this feature is not encouraged, however, as it is not an official clinical document when printed, and therefore does not conform to health record and confidentiality standards. If you are using this functionality, please note that the printed pages should be used temporarily and shredded immediately thereafter. There are a variety of reports available under the left-hand navigation, Reporting and Analysis reports for your use. Users are advised to only run reports for which they have been trained and instructed to, as per the IH data stewards. The Expand and Collapse All Panels icon will quickly expand and collapse all applicable sections for the screen the user is on. On classic screens, the Save, Reset, or Cancel buttons can typically be found both at the top and bottom of the screen. Messages and notifications are displayed to inform users of errors, warnings, and relay general information to the user. Classic screens display yellow support messages across the top of the page. Error messages are displayed in a gray box with red, white X icons. These will continue to display until the error is fixed or the user clicks the X to close. Confirmation messages pop up requiring the user to confirm an action before the system will do it. And informational messages are displayed for 10 seconds, showing either a blue information circle or a yellow triangle alert. Panorama has a helpful feature called Recent Work. You may be interacting with the same client, mass immunization event, or outbreak over a period of time and wish to access this information quickly. This section provides a listing of previously viewed clients, including the client you may currently have in context, as well as the module the user was last working on. Use the Recent Work link at the top of the left-hand navigation to quickly access your most recent work items and put your client, mass immunization event, or outbreak into context without having to search for them. Once clicked, Recent Work expands to show a list of the 10 most recent clients, mass immunization events, and or outbreaks you have set in context or worked with. The list is tied to your user account and will remain current between logins. To use Recent Work, click on the client name hyperlink you want to bring into context. Clicking any client listed within the Recent Work section will bring the user to the specified module also. You can then start working with that client. Clicking on a work item hyperlink below a client name will put that client into context and navigate you to the associated screen. Remember, it is important that you do not use Recent Work in front of clients for clinical care, as it will show diseases associated to previous clients you have worked with. The last visited mass immunization event is also provided to the user within the Recent Work section to allow quick navigation to the previously viewed, updated, or created mass immunization event. Client in context. In order to carry out most functions in the modules of Panorama, you will need to put a client, mass event, or outbreak into context first. Putting a client, mass event, or outbreak into context is like taking out their physical file folder of notes and having it available while you work with the client. It is the way Panorama knows who you are working on at that time. To put a client into context, use the Client Search or the Recent Work pop-up and select the client you want. In addition, work items such as investigations, encounters, immunizations, and/or cohorts can also be in context. The client header is the information in the gray box or boxes found at the top of the Panorama screens. It contains basic identification information about a client, cohort, or outbreak in context. When a client is in context within the Family Health module, an infant's birth and discharge weight will show, along with their gestational and adjusted ages if born premature. Clients who have a relationship created in Panorama will show a link to a parent or child to allow toggling between files. Care plan priorities and immunization status are shown in the header as well. Clicking on the hyperlinks in the header will navigate you to another screen associated with the client in context. Buttons at the top of the header, for example alerts or the BC Self-ID missing button, will display as applicable, and users can navigate to the respective screens by clicking the button available. On classic screens, as the user scrolls the full length of the screen in order to complete data entry, the banner, header, and action bar disappear along with the module information. On next-gen screens, however, the banner and action bar will float at the top of the screen at all times. In next-gen, the banner is simplified and grouped under icons. The functionality remains the same, however, across classic and next-gen screens. The next-gen action bar holds the screen title, screen-level action buttons, and help, print, and audit log buttons. The action bar floats at the top of the screen while the user scrolls through content, allowing for the Save button to always be visible at the top of the screen. On classic screens, the Save, Reset, Retrieve, and Cancel buttons are usually found at both the top and bottom of the screen. Some additional features to note include the client's active status being available in the context header of both classic and next-gen screens. It is highlighted and in red text in classic screens only, unless the client is inactive, then it will be highlighted and in red text in next-gen. On next-gen screens, the information icon opens a client profile modal, providing the user with all client-level information, including demographics, education information, and Indigenous information. The multi-person icon offers an efficient way to change the client in context. When clicked, the client embedded find component is launched, allowing the user to search by name, client ID, or health card number without leaving the screen. Note that clients cannot be created this way. And lastly, in next-gen screens, the left-hand nav is collapsible by clicking on the chevron icon above recent work. When collapsed, there are icons for the major screen areas, for example, recent work, client, and document management. When the icon is hovered over, it will expand with a list of screens below that section. As you navigate throughout the system, the header will stay at the top of most screens, reminding you which client, cohort, investigation, or encounter is being worked on, and identifying when you have selected a different context. Investigations and encounters will also show in the header underneath the main client in context header. Before doing any charting in Panorama, it is very important to ensure you are in the correct client file by looking at the header for the client you have in context. Screens that have the next-gen style use modal windows to reduce the amount of navigation from screen to screen for simple tasks such as adding or updating a client warning record. The modal opens on top of the current screen, which becomes grayed out in the background. The user is not able to interact with the background, however the screen will still scroll up and down. Clicking the X in the upper right corner or entering data and clicking Apply will close the modal. Embedded Find Components, or EFCs, allow the user to search for a predefined system entry for things like health region organization or service delivery information fields. On next-gen screens, the EFCs provide a type-ahead feature directly from the display field. If the user is unable to locate what they are searching for through the type-ahead, they can click on the magnifying glass icon to perform a more thorough search, clicking on the applicable resulting row to populate the information into the EFC. The information icon will display detailed information regarding whatever is displayed in the EFC. On some classic screens, the embedded Find component uses a Find button with a magnifying glass to search for a value. This presents a type-ahead feature which will display a drop-down of the most likely choices to choose from, or users have the option of performing a more thorough, detailed search. If using the type-ahead feature, click Select to populate the field you are working with. Select the Close or X button to collapse the embedded Find component. Drop-down functions in the classic and next-gen screens share the same result, However, the user must scroll through a selection to choose the specific item they want in classic mode, while Next-Gen drop-downs offer a type-ahead search function leading to speedier data entry. The Cancel button. Some screens in Panorama have a Cancel button that needs to be clicked in order to return to a previously viewed screen. Keep in mind there may be occasions where you have clicked the Save button to save entered data. However, you will still need to click on the Cancel button in order to return to a previous screen. There are a few screens in which, when you click on the Cancel button to return to a previous screen, a prompt to save message displays as a reminder. Always save or submit any changes before clicking Cancel or navigating away. Only after all changes have been saved should the user click OK on the prompt. These pop-up messages are very important to read to make sure the data you have created is stored correctly. If the warning is ignored, you may encounter times where data may get lost because it was not saved or entered properly before hitting Cancel. Do not use the back and forward buttons on your browser to navigate between screens. This may result in loss of data, error messages, or simply nothing will happen. Always use the Panorama buttons and links. Please do not use the Backspace and Enter keys on your keyboard. Using these keys may result in unexpected actions within Panorama. Using the Backspace button when your cursor is on a drop-down list, for example, will prompt you to navigate away from your current screen. The Backspace key on your keyboard, however, can be used in typical data entry fashion when writing out words, for example, to delete a misspelled word. The Panorama screen layout. The name of the screen displays at the top of each screen. The header will display underneath the screen name. The screen sections are divided by a thick gray bar with the name of the section labeled within the bar. Screen subsections are divided by a thin gray line. Required fields are marked with a red asterisk. These are system mandatory fields. Clinical business mandatory fields, for example, provincial or interior health minimum data entry standards, are defined separately and will be reviewed during training. Keyboard keys can be used to quickly jump to different parts of the screen. The Home and End keys will jump the screen to the top or bottom of the page. The Page Up or Down keys will scroll the screen up or down. The Show and Hide toggle selection shows and hides the content of main sections and subsections. These can be found throughout Panorama. Factory tables. Factory tables, or multi-row tables, are found throughout the Panorama system. They are designed to keep a running history of all entries and comments. This Comments multi-row table is an example of one where the row entries cannot be changed or deleted. Any amendments to existing comments need to be added as a new entry. Contains Data icon. The Contains Data icon appears to let you know there is content within a screen section that has been collapsed. On Next-Gen screens, only a check marks will show, with the words Contain Data only being present in the classic view. Clicking on the Show arrows will display the content for that subsection. The Loading icon. The loading icon appears to let you know the system is processing your selection. The loading icon may appear when you have chosen a selection from a drop-down list that is filtering the content of a subsequent field, or you are using the Type Ahead feature. Be sure to let the system finish loading before continuing with your data entry, or it may cause the system to halt. The icon will disappear when the page has finished loading. The Alerts icon. The Alerts icon will display in the client header if an alert or warning was created for that client, either manually or by the system. Some examples of an alert or warning include an allergy, sensitive record, potential duplicate record, or adverse event. You can view all alerts for a client by selecting the Alerts button in the client header. Users can also view manually created client warnings through the Client Warning link on the left-hand nav. Please refer to the Client Warnings Documentation Standard for more information on client warnings. Client warnings will also be reviewed during training. To find Panorama-related support documents like Quick Steps, Data Entry Standards, and Communications, click on Technology and Computers link from the InsideNet main page. From there, select Public Health Systems. All of the Public Health Systems documents are listed on this page. users can use the Search Document section to search by keyword, application, module, or section. If unsure, searching by keyword will yield the most likely results. Alternatively, users can use the filters available in the top row of the document list to narrow down items. Each module within Panorama will have its own separate set of documents with corresponding quick steps, guides, data entry standards, flowcharts, etc. After consultation with your team lead or supervisor, if you are still in need of Panorama support, please do not hesitate to email the Panorama support team at ppsystemsupport@interiorhealth.ca. Congratulations! You have completed the Getting Started in Panorama course.